everything you need to know to visit Singapore. The first thing you need to know is just a little bit about this place. In this country, there are 6 million people. It is known for having skyscrapers, modernity, but also they've done a really great job of keeping green in the city. Singapore is often nicknamed the Garden City. Now, although there are these skyscrapers, there's also great culture in the city, temples, and of course, delicious food. Shopaholics are definitely going to enjoy the shopping on Orchard Road. If you're flying in here, you're going to love the airport because Singapore's airport has been named the best airport in the world. We're going to talk more about that later. And if English is your primary language, well, Singapore is a great place to visit because English is one of the de facto official languages of Singapore. Pack your bags and let's check out this great country. The second thing to know is some information to help you get oriented to Singapore. And one of the best places to do that right here in front of the Merlion. This is the unofficial mascot of Singapore, half lion, half mermaid, and this is where everybody comes to get their selfie of Singapore. But there's a lot to know about this place more than just here. So Singapore is a city-state, meaning that it's a country and a city all together. The country only has one city, and that is Singapore. It is located at the southern tip of the Malay Peninsula. There are 2 bridges that connect Singapore to the Malaysia mainland. Now back inside the city of Singapore, to the south of Marina Bay, and actually that way is Singapore's central business district. This is home to high-rise financial corporations in really tall skyscrapers. But really part of the charm of Singapore is how it's blended the classic with the historic, and right next to the financial district is Chinatown with old school eateries, old school temples. You'll smell incense as you're walking the streets of it. And so that juxtaposition walking around this place, super cool. To the north of the Merlion is the Singapore River that comes inland from Marina Bay. This area is the colonial heart of Singapore. It is known as the Civic District. This is where you'll find a lot of Singapore's museums, also government buildings, and there's a lot of really neat neighborhoods right along that river. You'll see neighborhoods like Clark Quay and Boat Quay, and you'll see them spelled Q-U-A-Y. That's pronounced Quay. You'll find a lot of Singapore's nightlife around those 2 key neighborhoods. The shopping hub of Singapore lies along Orchard Road. It's the central shopping street of the city with over 20 shopping malls just on one street. More about shopping in this section of this video dedicated all to shopping. Being a melting pot for numerous cultures, there are also a ton of really neat ethnic neighborhoods worth visiting, including Little India with an elaborate Hindu temple. Kampong Glam, home to the amazing Sultan Mosque, Geylang Serai, and it's one of Singapore's oldest Malay settlements. Singapore also has 63 islands, though most visitors only visit one other island other than the main one, which is Sentosa Island. Sentosa Island could be considered the theme park beach resort of Singapore. It's home to tons of fun things to do, including the beaches, including zip lines, including water parks, and including home to Universal Studios Singapore. The third thing to know is about getting into Singapore. And if you're flying into Singapore, you're going to be flying into Changi International Airport, one of the best airports in the world, nay, the best airport in the world. And now you might be thinking, Chris, if you're talking about airports, why are you standing in front of a waterfall? This is at the airport. This is at the jewel, the crown jewel of the airport, basically a $1.7 billion shopping mall that connects all of the terminals. You don't even need a ticket to come in here. People who live in Singapore come here because it is just so cool. Changi Airport is incredibly well connected to the rest of the world. Over 100 airlines operate flights out of here to 400 different cities. It was originally built out as a transit hub, and the idea was, let's make Singapore an amazing place to connect, and then people stop over and check out Singapore while they're here. But now the airport itself has become a destination for many. Like, many people come to Singapore just to hang out for like a day or a day and a half in the airport before going home. And so it's interesting though that unlike most other airports, there are no separate zones for departing and arriving passengers in the main terminals prior to passport control. So therefore, if you're arriving in Singapore's airport, you're free to shop and eat at the airside establishments on arrival. There are 4 total terminals, with Terminal 4 specializing mostly on the budget carriers. Each terminal has really fantastical things. Terminal 1 has a swimming pool. Terminal 2 has a music listening area with couches. Terminal 3 has a butterfly garden. Connecting this place is the Jewel. And up on top is the Canopy Bridge. From 23 meters above, you've got glass floors and fog machines. I mean, I could go on and on about the Jewel. In fact, I will. I'll have a whole separate video if you just want to watch a tour of this place. Now, because this is a big connecting airport, the Singapore Tourism actually offers like tours of the city. Even if you've only got as little as 4 hours, you can do that. But even though so many people only do Singapore as a stopover, I think it's worth at least 5 days, way more than just a stopover. Now, if you're flying in here and you're coming to Singapore, they've moved their arrivals paperwork online. You need to submit your Singapore arrival card via their website or the MyCA mobile app. It's free, don't pay for any shady services, but if you do that, then when you come in to Singapore, if you're one of the countries that are eligible for the e-gates, then you don't even have to see a passport agent. You can just tap your passport, take a picture, get your fingerprint taken, and then you're in Singapore. For me, it was 30 minutes flat from the time I landed to the time I went through customs, passport control, baggage claim, and I was in a taxi to the city. 30 minutes from landing to the city. I mean, that never happens anywhere else. Okay, so how do you get to the city? I usually take a taxi. It's about 20 to 40 Singaporean dollars, takes about 30 minutes to the city center. For me, it was $25 to the JW Marriott that I was staying at on this trip. You can also take the MRT, which is their version of a subway. It also runs to the airport. It has a stop in the basement of Terminal 2. It's definitely the cheapest way into the city. It'll cost you around 2 Singaporean dollars. But it's not super convenient because you do have to transfer at least once, probably only good if you don't have that much luggage. There's also numerous buses to the airport, from the airport to the city. If you're going to Orchard Road, then bus 36 is your best bet. That's also around $2. Now, you don't just have to fly into Singapore. There's a couple more ways you can get in. If you're coming from Malaysia, you can come across those 2 bridges by land that I told you about earlier, or you can also come in here by ferry. There are 5 ferry terminals that handle ferry traffic from neighboring Malaysian and Indonesian cities, and there's a major cruise port over at Harbourfront. The fourth thing to know is about getting around Singapore, and the best way to get around Singapore is to use that thing that I told you not to take from the airport, the MRT, or the Mass Rapid Transit. Sometimes you'll see it as the SMRT, the Singapore Mass Rapid Transit, and they got a section called the LRT, the Light Rapid Transit, or Light Rail Rapid Transit. Anyway, that's enough acronyms. You should know that the MRT, the subway, the train in Singapore, it's amazing, it's clean, it's fast, efficient, and it's cheap. For the cheapest rides, get yourself an EZ-Link card. That's the stored value card. You can tap in and tap off. In a pinch, you can use your Visa or MasterCard with tap, but you'll pay 50 cents extra per ride if you're doing that. When you're not taking the MRT, the second best way to get around is by walking. Singapore is a very walkable place, although hot, which makes it a little harder to walk. What is nice is there are a ton of covered walkways. Great to keep you out of the sun, great to keep you out of the rain. Do bring an umbrella with you when you're around Singapore though, because the covered walkways aren't everywhere and the rain can come down really quick without any notice, and so it's really useful to have an umbrella when you're walking around. You'll find taxis to be plentiful, metered, and honest within the city, though they often can't stop on the side of the road to pick you up because it's illegal to do that in many places. You'll need to go to a taxi stop or taxi rank or a hotel that has a taxi to reliably pick up a taxi, or you can use the Grab app. Grab is the rideshare app in Singapore. It's not Uber, it's not Lyft, it's Grab. So maybe download that to your phone before you go. One more thing you should know about taxis is there's not really a standard color for taxis in Singapore. They come in all different colors, but there are larger taxis which will charge more on the meter. And then on the sign up here, it says there are limousine taxis, which are like the white or black taxis, and they actually don't have to charge you by the meter. I took one of those back from the zoo because it was a rainy day, and it was $25 for me to get to the zoo in a regular taxi, and it was $50 for me to get back from the zoo in a limousine taxi. But let me tell you, the limousine taxi was awesome. Why in a pinch? Because when it's raining, and it was raining when I was at the zoo, there were no taxis, and I used Grab, and there were no cars available as well. So in that case, use limousine taxi instead of just being stuck in purgatory. Oh, and of course there's the bus. Singapore has a ton of bus routes. They're clean, they're efficient. They do get caught up in traffic a little bit, but if you're like taking a route, say out to the zoo or someplace where maybe the MRT doesn't run, you'll end up taking a bus. Some are single decker, some are double decker. You'll find all the stops in English. I think it's pretty easy to navigate. Google Maps will do a pretty good job of telling you the bus routes to go on if you can't get there on the MRT. Bicycling, not really a thing for transportation here. I mean, there are people who ride bikes in Singapore, but there aren't really a lot of bike lanes or a lot of bike paths. It's illegal to ride bikes on the sidewalk. You have to ride them on the street. I don't know, I think the other public transportation options are so good and it rains so often that I wouldn't recommend riding a bike. Another neat way to get around is by boat. You can take a bum boat along the Singapore River, more of a sightseeing cruise, but that's a neat way to see the city. Should you rent a car? Look, I don't think so. I mean, the place is so small and the public transportation is so good and the rental cars are so expensive. Just leave the rental car at the airport. The fifth thing to know is about the weather and when to go. Singapore is officially classified as a tropical rainforest climate. What does that mean? It means that it's hot and humid all year long. There are really no distinct seasons when it comes to the temperature all year round. The average high temperature is 88 degrees Fahrenheit, and the average nighttime temperature, the average low, is 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot and humid, and in the midday sun on a sunny day, really quite oppressive and miserable. The seasons are rainy and dry, or maybe rainy and less rainy. January to March is considered the dry season with like a 25% chance of real rain any given day. And then the wet season is the rest of the year, with the height of that being in like October with a 60% chance of rain any given day in October. But I find like that's like significant rain. It rains almost every day here in Singapore, so do make sure you carry that umbrella with you that I was talking about before. Today, I really got rained on quite a bit, and it was like the one day I looked at the weather forecast on Google, which is worthless. Don't do that. Like, you need to look at like a Singaporean weather forecast to really find out if it's gonna rain. But you know what? Gray days like this actually probably are your best friend, because these are the days when it's gonna keep it a bit on the cooler side so you're just not like completely baked under the sun. Now, I say all of this like the weather is just so hot that you shouldn't come, and look, nothing's further from the truth. It's hot here, but the great part is that like all the buildings are like super well air conditioned, well, besides the hawker centers, but they love to air condition their buildings down to like 60 degrees Fahrenheit, so that like when you go into a hotel or a shopping mall, you're like, oh, I can finally cool down. You might want to bring a light jacket if you're not used to really cold air conditioning, because you'll find the inside here to be really cold. Good for me as a Californian, but Europeans tell me the inside AC is too cold for them.
Now, speaking of flash storms, here's one of those now. 2 hours ago, perfectly sunny. Right now, thunder, lightning. The typical pattern in Singapore, as the government weather service shows, and also as the taxi driver told me today on the drive out here, is it's typically clear in the morning and thunderstorms in the afternoon. And so if you're planning outdoor activities, do them in the morning. That's your highest likelihood of having things dry, and then plan your indoor or covered activities for the afternoon. Luckily, I'm undercover here at the river park at the Singapore Zoo. These covers are nice, but the thunder and lightning is quite loud.
Let's talk about money. The currency in Singapore is the Singaporean dollar. The debit cards are pretty widely accepted across Singapore. Visa or MasterCard are the primary ones. I would say about 90% of the places you're gonna spend your money, they're gonna take credit cards. The places that won't are maybe some of the hawker center stalls and also some of the street vendors, so it is worthwhile for you to have some cash on hand. I guess in a pinch, you could go to Maxi Cash and pawn some of your stuff that looks like it's a like upscale pawn shop. But where do you get your money? I like to get my money out of ATMs at the airport. It's where I like to get it from. If you wanna prefer to get it from a money changer, there's money changers at the airport. There's money changers throughout the city. I am told some of the best rates are at the money changers in Little India. I haven't used them, but I've heard a lot of people tell me that if you're looking to like exchange a lot of money and really want a good rate, then that's an option. Now, related to a lot of money, Singapore really is kind of an expensive destination as far as Southeast Asia is concerned. Now, compared to like Thailand or Malaysia, things in Singapore are probably going to be 2 to 3 times as much. The meals at hawker centers are pretty cheap, but if you're going to a fancy sit-down restaurant, you can expect to pay a couple $100s. The luxury hotels in the city, we're going to talk more about those later in hotels, but you can expect to pay, 300 Singaporean dollars a night or more. If you want cheap, then, visit some of the, like Malaysia, you can get there in like 30 minutes from Singapore, and you can eat over there. Indonesia is also just a ferry ride away, so you can do cheap after your Singaporean vacation, but do plan to budget a bit more than the rest of Southeast Asia. Although I think Singapore does get a bum rap when it comes to cost, that it doesn't have to be expensive. It can be. There was the movie Crazy Rich Asians that talks about how expensive Singapore is, but I think today I've spent all of since I got up this morning and it's 6 p.m., I think I've spent all of 25 Singaporean dollars to eat breakfast, lunch, second lunch, and dessert. The seventh thing to know is about food, and really one of the reasons why I come to Singapore and many people come to Singapore is to eat. The food is amazing and it can be had for cheap. So let me tell you where you're gonna get some of the city's most delicious and cheap food. It is at hawker centers. I am sitting in a hawker center right now. The Singapore government created these to clean up the city's act, to take out the street vendors that were out in the street, put them in a central place where they could have running water, electricity, good hygiene. Now there are over 100 of these hawker centers in Singapore, and you can get a plate of noodles for 3 Singaporean dollars at one of these places. They are tasty, they are great. They are busy. This is like Singapore's central dining room when it comes to lunchtime. And so if you come to one of these, you can't find a place to sit, it's totally cool to join somebody to sit with them because they are quite popular. I've got a whole guide about hawker centers that will be coming out soon. But if you want to know some of the 3 main touristy hawker centers, number 1 is Newton Circus. This is the one that was featured in Crazy Rich Asians. It is the closest to Orchard Road if you're staying there. I actually don't love this hawker center, and I wouldn't recommend that you go there for the tastiest food. Go there because you saw it in the movie. Go there to take great selfies. But what I don't like about Newton Circus is they tout. What does it mean to tout? Meaning that there's constantly people walking around hassling you to order their food. So I don't love that. It's not a peaceful eating experience. The one I do like that's in the center of the city is Lau Pa Sat. It's in the central business district. There's 100 stalls in there. They're pretty good. And in the evenings they have Satay Street where they cook meat on a stick over charcoal outside. So definitely do check out Satay Street at Lau Pa Sat. And then number 3 is Gluttons by the Bay. This is right on Marina Bay. It's best at nighttime because you can sit out there open air, have some classic Singaporean chili crab while you enjoy the view of Marina Bay Sands. But with over 100 of these, don't just limit yourself to those. If you're wandering around the city and you're hungry, it's lunchtime, and you see one, stop and eat. That's what I did today. This is the Albert Center at the Bugis Street Market. I didn't plan to eat here, but I was hungry, and I was over at the Bugis Street Market, and I'm like, oh look, there's a hawker center. Why don't I go and get some noodles? You should do the same. Oh, and if you don't know what to eat, well, a good tip is always to find one with the longest line. Okay, maybe not the longest line, because the lines can be seriously long in these hawker centers. Maybe find one that has a medium length line. Now, if you want something a little bit more air conditioned, Singapore has a lot of food courts that are kind of like hawker centers, except in a shopping mall with AC. Some of my favorites are the Food Republic chain of them. Right now, I'm in the Food Republic in Vivo City. This is a great place if you're connecting with Sentosa Island, because the cable car and the Sentosa Island Express train basically both come right from here. What do I have? I've got the mango shave ice with fresh mango and mango ice cream. $3.50. So what? $1 more than the shave ice at the Chinatown complex. So yeah, you do pay a little bit more for the AC, but I think it's well worth it. Some of my other favorite Food Republics in Suntec City by the Esplanade MRT, also in Ion Orchard down in the basement on Orchard Road. I really love the food court in there. I think that's on basement level. Oh, and sometimes people say I spend too much time in these videos talking about food, Chris, is it a travel guide or is it just a food video? And so if you want to see more about my favorite hawker center recommendations or what particular dishes I recommend, I've broken that out into a separate video. You can find a link to that in the description or at the end of this video in my Singapore playlist as soon as it's done. Oh, and bonus, because this food court is air conditioned, I actually still have ice in here. Unlike the ones I ate at the hawker centers that by the time I was done recording my video, I was just eating cold sugar water.
The eighth thing to know is about shopping, and if eating is the first national pastime in Singapore, then shopping is the second national pastime in Singapore. You know, shopping malls are dying around a lot of the world, particularly in the USA, but not in Singapore. Shopping malls are alive and well. Why? Because shopping malls here are amazing. Hundreds of stores, all of them have different designs, you know, it's not just the same Westfield cookie cutter mall placed in every city around the country. Well, there's only one city around the country, and so they really have to compete quite a bit. There's so many international tourists that visit here, a lot of people come here to spend their money and shop. Most of the major stores and the malls stay open until either 8 p.m. or 10 p.m., though some stores are getting into a monthly stay open till midnight routine. If you want to know about the best shopping malls in Singapore, I've got a whole video coming up on that. But if you want to do some outdoor street market shopping, well, there's not that many of them because it rains a lot in Singapore, so almost everything is covered inside. The 2-3 that you'll find outside, I got a video all about those. The Bugis market, the Chinatown market, and then there's like a little pavilion in Little India for those traditional outdoor shopping experiences.
Let's talk about the hotels in Singapore, and there's quite the range of accommodation choices for you here, from hostels and capsule hotels that are like $25 a night to the lavish Marina Bay Sands that'll cost you upwards of $600 a night. My typical go-tos are the Conrad Centennial, the Marriott Tang Plaza on Orchard Road, and on this trip I stayed at the JW Marriott South Beach. That is my new favorite Singapore hotel, if you can swing the cost. It was $600 a night during this trip, though I use Marriott points, and if you get it for $300, then I think it's a steal. I really like to stay in the city center, either right like around Marina Bay or along Orchard Road. Those would be the places I would recommend to you because they're closest to all the tourist attractions. You can walk to things, you can walk, if you're staying around Marina Bay, you can walk to take pictures with the Merlion, you can walk to eat, and you can come back in the middle of the day to like take a nap or change your clothes or take another shower because it gets so hot here.
You should know about the language they use in Singapore, and there's 4 official languages in Singapore: English, Mandarin Chinese, Malay, and Tamil. Now, you'll find a lot of things in a lot of different languages. This green tea can says it all. It's in like 4 different languages. You'll hear a lot of languages spoken, but if all you speak is English, you'll be able to get around just fine because English is the de facto language. It's the language used in government. It's the language used on most signs. Although you will see signs in other languages, they don't have to just be in English. But the interesting thing about the English spoken here is it has really a very interesting pronunciation and a whole set of words that are basically added in from the other languages that people speak here. They call the English spoken here Singlish or Singaporean English, and it's based on British English, and then they add Cantonese words in. And the most common one is la. And when I was at the zoo, I'm at the zoo right now. So when I was at the zoo, I heard, a mom telling her daughter that all of the elephants there are female. And the daughter says, like, really, why? And the mom's like, I don't know. And then the daughter says, well, can you use Google Law? Like, you just add law at the end of every word. It'll take you a little while probably to get used to the Singaporean English. And at first you might think people aren't speaking to you in English. It's much faster than normal English. And like I say, has those Chinese words tossed in. You can study up on a few of those Singlish words. And, they love it here so much that they've even got it on like a plate in a gift shop. They're so proud of their Singlish. The 11th thing to know is about the laws, and Singapore is famous around the world for having some very strict laws. Let me just tell you about a few that you should know as a visitor. Number 1, vandalism is punishable by caning, so graffiti tagging, etching your name to the bathroom wall, just don't do it. Overstaying your visa, also punishable by caning, so however long you have to stay in Singapore, leave when it's your turn to leave. They're also really strict on drug trafficking. Drug trafficking in Singapore, punishable by death. And that includes whether you're bringing actual drugs into the country or whether there are just drugs in your system. So, even though marijuana may be legal in certain states in the USA or Amsterdam, you probably want to wait a little while before you do that and you come to Singapore, because if it's in your system, it's considered drug trafficking. And now one of the ones that's often misunderstood is chewing gum. Chewing gum itself is not illegal in Singapore. Like, you'll have a really hard time buying it here. You can bring it with you. Just make sure you don't spit it out on the ground. Littering, spitting, also against the law. And finally, the one that's kind of funny, but you should be aware of too, is they have this like love-hate relationship with the durian. It's this like spiny, stinky fruit, and it is not allowed in many places in Singapore, including on Singapore's MRT. So don't buy a durian and expect to take public transit back to your hotel. I guess you're gonna probably just like buy your durian and eat it where you bought it, so you keep the durian stink to yourself. Number 13, you should know about the electrical power here in Singapore. They use British-style Type G outlets, which have three kind of squarish prongs at 230 volts. If you're coming from the USA, you're going to need an adapter from the plug size, and you should check the voltage of your electrical items to make sure they operate on 230 volts. The like fancy hotels, JW Marriott I'm staying in, they've got plugs that'll like work for US style plugs and the British style plugs, but they won't adapt the voltage. If you are at one of those hotels, sometimes the front desk will actually have a voltage converter if you have electrical devices that don't switch between the two. 13th thing to know is about casinos. And if you want to gamble in Singapore, there are two casinos. There is this one at Resorts World on Sentosa Island, and the second one is at the Marina Bay Sands in that futuristic surfboard-looking building. Now, if you're a foreigner, you can get into these casinos for free, but you have to show your passport and your like immigration email that you get coming into the country. Why do you have to do that? Well, to discourage locals from gambling, they charge Singaporean residents $150 a day to come to the casinos, or $3,000 a year for an annual pass. So lucky you can come in for free just by showing your passport. Make sure you have your phone and you can pull up that email that has the barcode with your immigration card, because that's how they do the immigration cards. You need to show both those every time you go in and every time you exit the casinos. They're not going to feel like Vegas casinos. They're not like lively and boisterous. They're pretty sedate and quiet, because when people come here, particularly locals, and they've spent their $150, it's for an intense gambling session where they're really focused on winning. You will find some pretty good cheap eats inside, though. All right, now let's talk about everybody's favorite subject that I know you've been waiting for, toilets. Insert poop emoji here. In Singapore, in general, toilets are clean, plentiful, and modern. In general, there are some that are not. You will occasionally see the squatty potty, which is the Asian-style squat toilet. If you find one of those, just find another stall. Generally, there will just be one of those, and they'll be the standard Western toilets for everybody else. Also, if you're in a toilet where there's toilet paper as you walk in the door, take it with you, because that means there won't be any toilet paper when you actually get in the stall. And then many of the restrooms that you'll find in hawker centers or in MRTs, like in the subway, typically don't have paper towels or any towels of any form. So if you want to dry your hands, make sure you've got some towels with you yourself. Oh, and most of the toilets are free, though every once in a while you'll find a toilet that costs a few cents. If you're walking around the city and can't figure out where to go, shopping malls are always a good bet, and so are the fancy 5-star hotels. Just walk in like you own the place and you're staying there, they'll assume you are staying there too.
Okay, let's talk about some of the best things to do while you're in Singapore. And if you're here for a few days, my number one recommendation is to visit the Singapore Zoo. I say a few days because it's a little bit of a haul to get here, and so allocate a full day or at least a full half day to visit the zoo. If you love animals, or even if you kind of love animals, this is the world's best zoo. It's amazing. I got a whole video just on this place. You can check that out in the description or at the end of this video when it's out.
Now, if you're less of a nature lover and more of a theme park lover, then you should definitely visit Sentosa Island. This is basically Singapore's playground. It's home to Universal Studios Singapore. It's home to a huge aquarium. It's home to a huge water park. The best way to get into Sentosa Island is to take the cable car. There's a really neat cable car that'll bring you in here from the top of Mount Faber with amazing views. You can also take the monorail from the Vivo City Shopping Mall, or just take a taxi, which is what I did today. It's about $15 from the center of the city to get here. Also, if you're into gambling, you will find a casino here inside Resorts World. There's a second casino over at the Marina Bay Sands, but we'll talk about that when I talk about the Marina Bay Sands, because that's definitely on the things to do list. Now, if you like to be out in nature, go for a hike. Singapore has a lot of great hiking paths. These are the hiking paths here on Sentosa Island. Many of the most popular hiking paths are paved because it rains here so much that if it wasn't, they would get muddy. But one of my favorite hikes is the Singapore Southern Ridges hike. I've got a whole video just on this one, but what's cool about this, it starts up at Mount Faber where the cable car comes into Sentosa Island, and then you take it along these ridges and you can see the city and you can stop if you want to. It's a good half-day hike. It's a really neat vantage point of Singapore. Or you can get out more into the jungle and go hang out and see the wildlife out there. There's wild monkeys, there's wild lizards. Surprising for such a highly developed place. But they've really developed certain parts of it and then kept other parts of it to be quite natural. Though, if you're going to go out into the jungle, bring some mosquito repellent because mosquitoes can be fierce here.
So if you do want to make it out to the beach here at Sentosa Island, you can just take the train all the way to the end and you'll be right here at Siloso Beach. These are man-made beaches, pretty white sand, pretty peaceful here. What's less peaceful or kind of weird is Singapore, it's like a huge maritime shipping place. And so looking right off in this distance of this very peaceful beach are tons of cargo ships just waiting to unload their cargo. There's also a neat musical fountain that you can see here, and it has a nighttime show on the weekends and holidays too.
I ran into fellow explorers Kai and Sons here in Singapore, all the way from Australia. And Kai, what one thing do you have to share with your fellow explorers about Singapore?
We love coming here. It's our family destination. We love the nightlife. We like the temperature. It is quite hot.
We love the roller coasters.
We like the roller coasters, and we love Sentosa. That's for sure. We definitely love Sentosa Island and Universal Studios and the shopping. The shopping is great fun too. The boys like going and checking out all the latest in gear that Singapore has to offer. So yeah, we have a good time here. It's definitely a family destination for sure.
So this is our last day.
It's our last day.
Yeah,
it is
how
our
long
last
has that
day.
been here?
7 days.
7 days?
We were 7 days in the US prior to here. So yeah,
All right.
It was absolutely awesome.
Visit Kampong Glam, the ethnic hub for the Malay people and the Muslim community in Singapore, because it's home to the 200-year-old Sultan Mosque. When I was here, they were celebrating the holy month of Ramadan, so they had like a street festival set up. But so if you're here during Ramadan, you might be able to partake in some great Muslim feast out in front. Or if not, you can go in between 10 to 12 or 2 to 4 every day if you want to go check out the mosque. You do have to take off your shoes, and if you have bare shoulders or if you have shorts like I do, then they'll give you some appropriate clothing to wear while you're inside. Now, there are a lot of neat nooks and crannies in this neighborhood, and if you get off the main Sultan Street there with the mosque, another cool alley to check out is called Haji Lane. And even the streets around it, they've got like covers to walk under. But this is Haji Lane right here. It's this narrow little alley with restaurants, cafes, street art, just a super cool vibe. If you're a history buff, then you'll definitely enjoy a visit to the National Museum of Singapore in this really cool looking building from the 1800s. This museum goes over how Singapore got its start and became the nation it is today, bringing all these different cultures together into this melting pot, coming out of British colonial rule, becoming a part of Malaysia, ultimately becoming an independent nation, and more is what you'll learn in that really pretty neat museum worth a couple hours of your time.
And now a great way to explore nature, even on a rainy or hot day, is to come visit Gardens by the Bay. Gardens by the Bay, it's a huge parcel that's really like a modern garden. And in this modern garden, it's free to just stroll the gardens, but they've got a couple of paid attractions. They've got this super grove of trees that does a nighttime show that's free, but you can go on a bridge across it for amazing views. Costs you money to go up there. The main attraction, though, are the two domes. There's a flower dome, which, by the name, has flowers in it. When I was here, they had cherry blossoms in there. They've got seasonal flowers like tulips, those sorts of things. The main dome is this one that I'm in right now, the Cloud Forest Dome, that is this, it's a rainforest in a dome, and every 2 hours, it mists. And so you want to be here on the even hours when the mist starts to come up because it's really cool. It's like, if you want to do both domes, it's $53. And yeah, it's kind of expensive, but I think it's worth it. If you want a free garden, you can visit the Royal Botanic Gardens. That's a more traditional garden, free admission there, except to go in the Orchid Garden. That's going to cost you money. And you should also visit the Marina Bay Sands Hotel. Why do I mention that while I'm standing here in Gardens by the Bay? Well, because it's It's right out there. They are like right next to each other. Marina Bay Sands, that's the second casino here in Singapore. It's got a great shopping mall. It's got a great food court in the basement, and there's a nighttime light show that you can watch out on the bay a couple times nightly. That is free admission. Well, fellow explorers, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my videos from Singapore, you'll find links here on the screen or in the description below. You might be interested in hawker centers. You might be interested in hotel reviews. I've got all of that and more. And as usual, I won't say goodbye because I'm going to see you in the next video.